electronic songs using instruments. So I accidentally opened that application just a while ago. Maybe you've seen it, and it messes up the audio. So I think it's okay now. I just restarted everything. All right, so let's start. So again, for today's topic, we'll be talking about C++ conditional statement. So if you can remember, in our one of our first topic is about flowchart. So this part, katong conditional statement, will be used on the ones that will be using a diamond. So if you can remember, one of the figure in flowchart are is this. Hold on, kana diamond, and then that is the split of the flow. It could be either for yes, or true, or no, false, something like that. Can you still remember this particular figure? All
Yes,
right.
yes,
So
sir.
that conditional statement would be perfect for this kind of flow. That's going to be our topic for today. So if you have any questions or clarifications, just click raise your hand, raise your hand, raise hand inside Google Meet, or you can send your questions directly here. Okay. And those who are using unlimited internet, just keep your cameras turned on so I can see you while we're doing this class. Go ahead, Anthony. Yes. Last meeting, kan sa to, Monday. Last Monday, we had this meeting with the CSIT faculties, and our target for face-to-face is Monday, starting Monday. Pero hantod karon, to be honest, right now, gahapon, if I'm not mistaken, gahapon gamiting ang mga CSIT head sa main campus. So I think they're talking about online classes, and we are not so sure just yet of base na yung mga new updates. But our target for face-to-face would be next week because naka-receive naman ta og safety seal coming from the city health, or I think it was the IATF. And since naka-receive na ta og safety seal, so we are free to want to do an online class. Pero since that is gonna be the first week, maybe mag-adjust ata. Napatay mga adjustments nga buhaton to get the hang of doing online class again, because it's been a while and we're not gonna be using the original nga computer laboratory. Mangulo sa tag laboratory from another college. Murag temporary ba nga laboratory. So we'll see. But our face-to-face gonna be Monday starting. Pero sa to because our schedule for first year is Monday, or our Monday and Tuesday man, balitan na ninyo yung mga subjects that requires laboratory would be scheduled during Monday and Tuesday. So I will check later on sa schedule, because ano to yung schedule na. I will check it later on to see if unsa tanga day. Section C, it could be either it could be either Monday or Tuesday. I'll get back to you on it later on. And if Monday, then we'll see each other Monday. And then, however, if it's Tuesday, we'll see each other on Tuesday as well. Okay? Mo pa na, i-check sana ako ang schedule, guys. More, most probably, it's gonna be morning. Yeah. Question sa Google Meet is, for laboratory subject ra mag face-to-face, sir? Yes, it's only the major subjects that requires laboratory. So I think for first years, it's only ITS 101, computer programming one. I'm not sure with your ITS 100, but I think naapod na siguro may laboratory for ITS 100. I'm not sure. Did Mr. Mark Catalonia has talked to you with whether or not you'll be doing online class? Or rather face-to-face?
Wala pa man, sir.
Wala pa. Alright. I'm not sure po if laboratory ba ang 100, ITS 100 or not. So, dili daw. So, meaning your subject, okay, the subject nga mag face-to-face lang for now is ITS 101. Alright, so kung mo, tulo mo ka section, if I'm mistaken, tulo or pat. So, 3 sections would be coming from Mr. Mark Badoy, and then Miss kinsa to si Miss Daisy Ann Lago. So tulo murag duwa dagay kami Miss Daisy Ann o saka Sir Mark, and then ako which is kamo.
Papaman na sulti si ma'am ni
Wala pa. Alright. Actually gapon murag gapon pa mo meeting gapon or sang adlaw ba to? Sa sang adlaw pa may meeting, and lagi na naka-meeting tuod pero dili pa kaayo klaro gid ba. Pero nanay target nga day is just that kanang proper nga implementation gani kay medyo clueless pa mi sa implementation nga part, but siguro if mga to nata dito tanan we'll figure it out if nanata dito sa mga buhaton. Pero this one thing's for sure, we're not going to be doing discussion in the laboratory. So we'll be doing the laboratory lesson. Ang laboratory na to is dito na tag hands-on, wala na discussion. So we'll be doing an online discussion first. Every week we'll be doing an online discussion, and then 2 hours gapon we'll try to do 2 hours na discussion, and then once we get to the laboratory, kanang once we get to the laboratory, dito na tag hands-on na. Di na tayo mag-discuss dito. But I will be there still to assess, para i-assist mo. And then, again, pag abot na to ito, you'll be, dito na maglingkod, turn on the PC and work on your activity. And then, natoy do's and don'ts. I forgot some of it, but one thing's very important is that since the laboratory is temporary na laboratory, and then maybe you've noticed kung nakaadto mo campus 1 na ay construct sa atubangan, and atong laboratory is katong na ay blue dapit sa court, basketball court, katong blue nga building kabantay mo ato kinsa nakaadto campus 1.
Criminology man to, sir.
Sa criminology,
thank you.
sir.
That's right, the criminology building, and dili to siya aircon, and kay temporary magutugod kay ang pikas ang sa to gani ang laboratory is gina-construct man dayon, so kato tong gamit temporarily, so dili to aircon dito. That's And then since dili siya aircon, I'm not sure if gibutangan na ba nila o cortina ron nga nag-construct sa tubangan, therefore abog siya kaayo, right? Abog kaayo. So here's what you're going to do para dili ta mo take time para nga maglimpyo gyud ta every time, di ba? Para di ba, since as students we are part of the university man, we need to clean our laboratory every now and then, every time that we use it. So para dili mahurot atong time panglimpyo, no? We'll only be doing 1 hour. So every time, please bring your own kanang trapo ba? Sa trapo lang, and then you're just going to wipe your place. Kana imong lugar lang. Now, if everybody will be able to bring rags on their own, then we don't necessarily have to. It will not take time for us to clean the laboratory. So since naiga-construct sa tubangan, tendency is every now and then, magsulod ang mga abog ba? Alright? So make sure nga magdala mo og rags, and then face mask. Although sa city dili na required ang face mask, pero sa Norso gi-require gud gihapon mo suot og face mask. So make sure to bring one. And then again, rags kana lang sa, and then I'll get back to you if naman gani ko yung mga nalimtan nga dapat ipabalon niyo daan. But make sure to bring rag, and then you just have to clean your place, yung bangko, ang yung table, ang yung monitor, keyboard, ana lang. So every time na mo sa Norso, make sure to bring your own rag. Kana clean po. Okay? Sabat ra?
Yes, sir.
Okay. More on face-to-face classes soon, if kanang basta our target will be next week, so there might be chance that we'll be able to see each other Monday or Tuesday already. After this class, I'm going to check the schedule. In fact, I'll check it now. Hold on. Let me check the schedule because kuan magud ang schedule kinala pa mang usbon kay nakabutan mo sa buntag. Nako schedule sa hapon ba, and I can't do hapon nga class, so kinahanglan ako siya balhin in the morning, because you already know the reason why I can't do I can't do face-to-face class during hapon. In fact, I can't do any classes during the afternoon at all. So hold on, let me check. Kinanon may schedule na actually, pero kinahanglan ko siya ibalhin. 2 morning. Every Thursday, Friday. Hold on. Friday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday. Asa Monday, Monday. So Monday, ang batch. Okay, so I think we'll be. Oh no, dali lang ha. Section C. Section C, ta, di ba?
Yes, sir.
C.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay, sa gamay kayo ang text. ITS 101 Section C. Wala sa Monday, so I think na siya sa batch 2. Alright, hapon jud ang naka-schedule. So batch A, by the way, will be scheduled by batch. Later on, akong kuha ninyo ang batch ba. So ano na lang. Okay, I will divide you later on. I think there are only 17 of you. There are only 17 for the first batch, 17 for the second batch. So naka-schedule there is hapon, but obviously we can't do afternoon. So I'm going to ask somebody from other section, maybe Miss Lago. I'll ask Miss Lago to um mag-swap rin yung klase ba? Mag-swap ni morning ko at hapon siya. So our schedule here, as for now, it's Monday. For first batch, it's gonna be okay. With the batches, I'm just going to um update with you on that. But again, you'll be divided into two batches. So since there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are 30, more than 30 of us. So the first 17 would be a first batch, and the second one would be second batch. So here will be scheduled during Monday on laboratory room 2. Okay, lab room 2. Bamana ka laboratory atong gamiton. So nata sa 2. But for the schedule, I'll make sure I will move it during morning. So I'm going to ask Miss Lago to swap. Swap ra ko niya, and then later on, if masugot na siya, I will let you know. Okay? All right. So far, do you have any other questions regarding the face-to-face class?
none, sir.
Okay. Anyway, we'll talk more about it. For the meantime, ako sang klaro na atong schedule with the rest of the faculty. Swap sa ako. And then most probably we'll be doing our class face-to-face Mondays morning. And then since maura man na inyong klase, so face-to-face, so there shouldn't be any problems then. All right, so shall we start with our topic now? With our lesson?
Okay, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right, so
Easy.
again, for today's topic, we'll be talking about C++ conditional statement. And basically, conditional statement is about deciding or creating a flow, a split of flow. Basically, it's decision making, meaning you're going to split the flow depending on the condition that you're going to set. So we all know, we are all familiar with the flow chart. So basically, in flow chart, the decision making happens using the diamond figure. So the diamond figure will split the conditionals. The condition will split the flow of the program by setting a condition, and depending on the condition, if it's met or not, then the flow will split accordingly. Okay, so if you have any question, just click raise your hand, and or you can send your questions directly here sa Google Meet in messages. The last meeting we've discussed about arithmetic operators. So if you haven't watched it already, just copy this link on your screen right now, or go to YouTube and look for this particular video. Okay, So are you done with the assignment, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The assignment was to
Yes.
create whether or not, or to compute the population increase of Bae City from 2 decades ago until now. So there will be two operations to do. Basically two suman. Dua ka kuan ba? Dua ka I'm not sure what that's called. Dua ang pangayo, di ba? So first is the current population after 2 decades and the increase. So the comparison between the population 2 decades ago and today. So the number of increase and the actual population. So is that what you did? Ba ba na
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's good. All right. So again, if you haven't watched it already, or you wish to replay, just to go on to review the class, just copy this a link on your screen right now. So today we'll talk about conditional statements. So conditional statements in C++ or in programming generally, there are two types of conditional statement. Number one is using relational operators and using the if else statement. So that's going to be our discussion today. We're going to discuss what exactly are relational operators and how do we use it to construct in conditional statement and using the if else statement as well. All right. So before anything else, let's have a quick activity. So below is a list of students who are applying to be Norso freshmen. To be accepted, the student must have at least 85% senior high school GPA and must acquire at least 80% in the entrance examination. Determine the student who passed and failed. All right. So who would like to determine whether Rachel passed or not? Anyone? Based on the condition that we set. Did will Rachel pass the nursery application? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Gideon. Raise your hand,
Yes.
raise your hand so I can acknowledge your name. All right, Anthony, go ahead. Rachel. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's true. So let's check. Since the condition that we set is 85% senior high and then 80% entrance examination, Rachel's senior high is 92. Is that kanang positive ba siya or dili?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then how about the entrance exam? Pass ba siya? Mo pass ba siya?
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, since
Pass.
both of the condition are met, therefore Rachel passed. All right. So how about Monica? Anyone?
Pass, sir.
Abilia, go ahead.
dili, sir.
Dili. All right, nga naman.
Kay at least 85% man ang GPA, sir.
Okay, so X na ni siya. And then, how about entrance exam?
Yes, maka-pass siya, sir,
Yes, sir.
but mobira man
Okay,
answer ang GPA niya.
that's true. All right. So since, although nakapasar siya sa entrance exam, pero mo siya kapasar yung high school GPA, meaning wala siya ni pass. So, unsay failed, okay? Failed. All right, thank you, Abilia. Next, Chandler. Anyone? Hamlet.
Answer sa GPA niya, sir, kay pass siya. Then sa entrance exam kay dili. So yung
So,
failed pa man siya
therefore,
kay doon man siya sa entrance exam.
all right, failed. Yeah. All right. So, how about Phoebe? Anyone? How about Phoebe? Anyone? Maria Lee. Go ahead. Maria Lee.
Pass siya sa GPA, sir, then sa entrance exam dili kay 79 naman yung grado niya. At least 80 man ang sa exam.
Therefore, pass or failed?
Failed siya.
Failed. All right. Thank you. All right. Joey. Anyone? Miguel. Go ahead, Miguel. Chance na lang. Go ahead.
Pass, sir.
Okay, pass nga naman.
Kay ang GPA niya is 88. So, lapaw siya sa 85. Then, ang sa entrance exam, 87. Lapaw po siya sa 80.
All right, so pass. Okay, thank you. And then, para madalita, I'll do the rest. So Ross did good with the senior high school GPA, so he passed. And then he also passed with the entrance examination, therefore passed. And then as for Jill, she both failed for both senior high school GPA and entrance examination, therefore failed. All right. So it's also the same case with the conditional statement. So for us to be na-split sa indecision, di ba? So when it comes to creating decision making, you have to set conditions. Whether or not if the condition is met or not, then the split, the flow of the program, the flow of the process will also be split depending on whether or not it's going to be true or false or yes or no. In this case, pass or fail. Anthony, do you have any question?
Balik,
Ano man?
sir.
Ay, 80 mo days,
80,
All right. Okay,
82%.
that's good. So that's pass there. All right. Okay, thank you. All right. So ano lang. So you have to set a specific condition, and then depending if the condition is um, met or not, is set or not, then there will be a flow of condition, a flow of, there will be a split of the flow of the process or the program. So it could be either true or false, yes or no, or in this case, pass or fail. So that's going to be our topic was all about today. So here's squad. Ano na pong gibutang. So una pong maguna gama. So by the end of this lesson, the student shall explain the following hugot. Mahirap maging else sa taong palagi kang if. All right. So hopefully by the end of this class, magets niyo yung hugot and then try to elaborate what this is all about. Mahirap maging else sa taong palagi kang if. All right. Can you turn your cameras back on? I'm not seeing anybody now. Those who are using unlimited internet, just keep your cameras turned on. Okay, thank you. All right. So C++ conditional statement. Conditional statement is a set of rules performed if a certain condition is met. All right. So going back, it's all about setting conditions. C++ supports the usual logical conditions from mathematics, like less than. Okay. So basically, we are going to compare, diba? We are going to compare if the condition is met or not. How do we compare it? We'll be using logical conditions from mathematics like less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equal to. So basically, for us to be able to compare the condition, the conditions, we'll be using mathematical logical form, logical conditions. So let's say, for example, again, we use logical conditions from mathematics like less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to. So by trying to, let's focus, let's say, for example, on the entrance exam alone. For example, kanilang ato i-base, and then the student must have at least 80% on the entrance exam to pass. So how do we create the equation to determine whether the student passed or not? Again, these would be our option: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to. So how do we create the equation or the condition to determine whether the student passed or not?
Less than or equal to, sir.
All right, let's check. So let's call it entrance. If we're going to create an equation, so entrance exam grade is equals to, it must be either at least
Greater
80%.
than.
Let me erase it. So it's blank sa to 80%, di ba? So what should be the logical condition that we'll be using? The mathematical logical equation. So go ahead, Miguel.
Greater than, sir.
Greater than All right. If we'll use greater than, so meaning if 80 ang iyahang score, dili di siya kapasar. Pasar siya or dili? If 80 ra jud iyang score, pasar siya or dili? Anyone?
Dili.
Okay. But the condition here says that at least
At least
80%
80%.
man. So that
Mm.
also includes 80%. So how do we include 80% in the equation?
Equal to.
Okay, so
Equal
greater
to, sir.
than or equal to 80. So the grade must be greater than or equals to 80 to pass. So if the grade is 79%, kani mo kuan ra ba gyapon ni? Is this condition true?
Less than na, sir.
Less
Dili
than na siya.
Less than na, sir.
Therefore, this will not be accepted.
na
All right. So if it's gonna be 81%, so it's greater than 80 man, di ba? Therefore, it's passed. Okay. So far, do you get the idea already on how to compare conditions? So we'll be using logical forms from mathematics. We'll be using less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to. So before we proceed, by the way, I'm trying to discuss here, assuming that you already know what these less than, or equal to, greater than, etc. is all about. So kasabot pa taon sala ni. This is in siguro elementary pa taan but does anyone have any idea what this means? What do you mean by less than? All right. Tanan ba before we proceed? Ato sang klarohon. Tanan ba nakasabot og unsa ng less than or equal to? Type 1
Yes,
on
sir.
the okay, type 1 on the comment section. Type 1 if everything if nakagets na mo unsa ng less than or equal to. Okay. So all right, that's good. So basically, just a review, recap. Less than meaning if we're going to compare if we're going to compare two unsa man, variables, let's say two variables, for example, A and B, less than, and say less than, meaning A has less value compared to B. Mas kamay ba iyang number compared sa B? So that's it. If it's gonna be less than or equal to, so there are two options, whether A has less value with B or A has equal value to B. All right? Ato nang klarohon. And then greater than means A has greater value, meaning mas dako iyang value compared to B. So it could be either mas dako iyang number compared sa B. And then greater than or equal to means that A has either greater than or equals to B, meaning either dako ang iyang value or pareha siya ang value sa B. And then equal to meaning both A and B has equal value, meaning unsay number sa A same pud og number sa B. And not equal to, yes, both values for A and B are completely different. Okay? So for example, A is mas dako siya compared sa B, or B mas dako siya sa A, vice versa. All right? So just a recap before we proceed any further. Gets ready ba? So relational operators. So these are called relational operators, by the way. The equals, less than, greater than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then not equal to. These are called relational operators. So take note, these are called relational operators, also referred to as comparison operators. So in mathematics, it's called comparison operators. In programming, it's called relational operators. They are used to compare two values. Below is a list of all relational operators that we'll be using in programming. So we have, again, greater than, and then less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, then equal to, and then not equal to. So take note, basically these are the function. This is an example. So one thing to take note is, for example, equal to has two equal sign, okay? And then not equal is an exclamation, and then equal. All right, again, equal to has two equal signs. So for example, x is greater than y, or 5 is greater than 4. Is it true?
No.
Is this true?
yes.
Okay, true.
Butang.
X, X is less than Y. For example, 4 is less than Y. Is it true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then 6 is greater than or equals to 5. True?
Mm. Mm.
Uy, nga naman, nga
Yes,
naman.
sir.
True. It's because 6 has greater value. It's okay. All right, and 4 is less than or equals to 5. That is still true. And then 5
True.
is equal to 5. Again, equal sign, it should be 2. There should be two equal signs. It's true. And then 4 is not equal to 5. That is true. Okay, so that's how we are going to, oy, namatay ko this lahat eh. That is how we're going to compare values for us to set conditions. So, um, in programming, this is where Boolean comes in. So if you can remember, one of the data type that we haven't really experienced or discussed in the past is the Boolean, di ba nato, character, integer, string, and um, one of the other data type is Boolean. So this is an example of Boolean. So it will check whether or not x is greater than y. Then it will proceed. It will return 1 if it's true, 0 if it's false. So I'm not going to run this. Maybe you can try it on your own. But this is how it works. So we have two variables, x and y. X having 5 na value, and then y has numerical value of 4. So in the first C out, we checked whether is x is greater than y. So basically, this type of coding is called Boolean. So iyang i-check whether the condition is true. So the condition, how to check condition, we use parentheses. So is x greater than y? So since x is 5, y is 4, then of course it is true. Therefore, it returned 1. So 1 is true, 0 is false. That is Boolean. And then is x less than y? Obviously, that's false. Therefore, it returns 0. And then is x greater than or equals to y? So yes, it's true because 5 is greater than 4. So it's true. Therefore, it returned to 1, so on and so forth. All right, so these are called Boolean. So I'm not going to run it, but you might as well try to do it on your own later on. So do you have any questions with the relational operators? Nabay nalibgan ani nga part?
Wala, sir.
Wala na.
No,
Sure.
sir.
Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so let's try to understand conditional statement even further. Let's talk about if-else statement. An if statement is a conditional statement that performs a function if the condition is true and else if false. All right. So for example, this is the process and then we set a condition. Now, if the condition is true, the decision or the flow of the program will kuano. Kana bang split niya ba? Whether dire siya mo padayon kung ang condition is true, but if the condition is false, dire siya. Mura bag tagaan mo siya og split ba? Mo split ang yung decision if it's true or false, depending on the condition that you set. So if it's true, the following would be the function to be executed if the condition is true, and then if it's false, the function to be executed if the condition is false. Let's say, for example, we are going to create a program that determine if the score passed. Right? So just the same thing with our katong sa to ang example ganina. So first is we set a variable state kanang initializing the passing score. So here the passing score is 10, right? So before try to disregard the code for the meantime. So let's say for example, we're going to create a program that will determine if the student passed the examination. So let's say passing score is 10, all right? So student 1, ayan score is 7. Student 2 is 9, all right? So first is we're going to set a condition whether student 1 pass or not. So we're going to compare his grade, his or her grade, to the passing score. So if we're going to compare, is 7 greater than or equals to 10?
False, sir.
No,
Equal,
sir.
sir.
Therefore, student 1 didn't pass. All right. How about student number 2? We're going to compare 9 and 10. Is it greater than or equal to 10?
Dili, sir.
False, sir.
Sir.
False. Therefore, both student 1 and 2 failed. However, student 3 got
Didn't
11. So, ni-pass na siya. Alright? So, we're going to set a condition. So, if ang score is failed, moingon ang atong program nga, sorry, but you failed. And then, if nakapasar, moingon ang atong program nga, congratulations, you passed. So, that is the flow. So, si student 1 and 2, ang iyang ma-receive is, sorry, you failed. But student 3, ang iyang ma-receive nga output is, congratulations, you passed. So, na-split difference between the students who passed and student who didn't. Right? So that's all. That's it. So let's start with the if statement first. The if function is executed because, all right, in this example, the passing score is 10. Circuit lagi ni. sorry. Dili siya passing score. Okay. Hold on. Save ako ang example, but let's say the passing score is 7 and ang score sa student is 10. Did the student pass? In this example? Klaro na ako kay medyo na-save ako ang example dire.
Sir.
Ang passing score is 7 di ay. Ang score sa student is 7. All right. Let's just create a program out of it. So in this case, the if function is executed because the condition is true. So first of all, let's siguro delete. Okay, we'll get back to it in just a moment. For the meantime, let's take a look on the other programs na po. Another scenarios where we can familiarize na to ang if and the else statement. So the if function will be executed if the condition is true. In this example, the if function is this. So obviously, since the condition is met, so greater than or equals to 7, so since 10 is greater than 7, therefore this particular block of code is executed because the condition is true. Now, the else statement, however, okay, the else statement is the condition. The else statement is basically a block of code that will be executed if the condition is false. So, for example, ang passing score is, ang score sa student is 6 and ang passing score is 7. So, is this true? Is 6 greater than or equal to 7? Let's compare. Is
Yes, sir.
6 greater than or equals to 7? So since it is false, do you think this code will be executed?
Dili, sir.
Dili na. So this is false. Therefore, mo proceed siya sa next. And that's where else comes in. So if ever the condition, ang condition niya is set is invalid or not valid, then you'll have to create an additional condition na kung ang imong condition is false, then the function will be executed. Now, mura ba siya og last nga option ba? Last nga option. If ang condition is false, then it will run this particular code. Ano ba? So you're going to create an additional function that will be executed if the condition is false. So therefore, the else statement will be executed because the condition is false. All right. So if we're going to analyze it by looking at the flow chart, so for example, the score is 6. The condition is 6 greater than 7? If it's
No,
true,
sir.
if it's true, then it will proceed here. But obviously, since this condition is false, therefore the flow is coming from this and this. Oh, you failed. All right. Na-process lang. All right. So let's try to create a program. So first of all, let's understand how do we write the syntax. The if statement is used if only one condition is true. However, there are more than one conditions. If there are more than one conditions involved, we use else if. But that's fine. Unya na lang na. We'll focus more on the if statement and the else. So how do we write the condition? First is we'll write the word if and then open and close parenthesis and then the condition. All right? And then inside the condition would be katong block gihapon, and then inside the block would be the function to be executed if the condition is true. And then else, we will write the word else, and then no more condition because kas arata mo set sa condition. In this case, again, ang else if wala jay true, if all the conditions nga imong giset puro siya false, then else will be executed. And then same thing, we'll write parenthesis, and then inside the parenthesis will be the function to be executed if neither of the conditions are true. So let's try creating a program now. So we will try to create a program that will determine whether the student passed the examination or not. All right, so we'll start with right. Make sure naka full screen in yung phone and then naka landscape mode, naka auto rotate so you can clearly see the codes. I'll try to make it as big as I can, but just try na lang put yung auto rotate. Go ahead, Gideon.
Sir, if daghan ko else if statement nga gamiton,
We'll
kinahanglan
talk.
ako siya
All right, it's okay. We'll talk more about else if later on. For the meantime, let's go and let's focus on the if and else, and then after that, once everything's been understood, we'll proceed with the else if. Okay, we'll
Okay, sir.
discuss it. All right, we'll discuss else if in just a moment. All right, so again, we are going to create a program. So this program determine if a student passed the exam. Say passing score is let's say 75. Okay, so this program determines if a student passed the exam. So again, the passing score is 75. So let's say, for example, let's create a variable containing students grade. So let's say, for example, ang nakuha sa student is let's call it let's say ang grade sa student, let's call it grade, and then let's say, for example, yung nakuha is 80, right? So we're going to create a condition. So how to write condition? We will start with if, and then open and close parenthesis, and we will write the condition. So if grade is, again, the passing score is 75, diba? So how do we write the condition? Guys, can you help me create the condition? Let's change the name to student grade. Sige, grade lang eh. All right, who would like to help me create the condition? Again, the passing score is 75%. Anyone? Then, who would like to go in? Who would like to help me create the condition?
If passing grade is
Go ahead, Abilia.
greater than 75%. If
Okay.
passing grade
Passing grade? As mo kakitag passing grade. We'll only be using grade lang as our variable. All right, it's okay. Go ahead, Abilia.
if if grade is greater than 75%,
Greater than
If grade is greater than or equals to 75.
All right, 75. All right,
75.
so Kuan, agree bang tanan? Is this true? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's try. So after we set the condition, it's grade, meaning this grade we're talking about this, kani. All right. So if grade is greater than or equals to 75, then we will set the function. Unsay atong ganahang buhaton if it's gonna be if the statement is true. So we can either create an output saying
See out, you pass.
kana man to si out sa kana open angle
Yes, sir.
bracket. All right. Then you pass. Okay. Let's check. Kana lang sa. Let's check. Let's save that. And if and may save ang nga naman. Again, we are setting the condition pa man. So ato sang i-check if this particular condition is true or false. So let's check, compile and run. So it says here you passed. Okay? Because 75 is indeed 80 rather is greater than
Than
75. Diba? Is it true? So it says here you pass it
Yes,
because
sir.
80 is greater than 75. 75 ram atong giset sa condition. So how about let's change the grade to let's say 74. What 74 dyan? What do you think will happen? Ito
Ano,
siguro yung
What
output.
else, sir?
mo-apply
Sorry, just
na
looking
ang
at the
else,
code.
sir.
All right. But just looking at code, if we're going to write it, if we're going to compile and run it, sa mahitabo siguro.
Wala,
12,
sir.
sir.
Wala error. However, nothing will display. All right. Nothing will display. It's because we only set the if condition. So where else comes in. So to make our program a little more easier to use and more user friendly, more useful, then we are going to add a condition or a statement if the condition is false. So therefore, we're going to add else. Now, if the statement or the condition is false, then else will be executed. So, ano lang, write else and then do whatever you want. So you can either display a text saying, sorry, you failed, something like that. So that if the condition that we set is false, then the else will be executed. So let's save that. Let's compile and run. All right, it says here, you failed. That is because we already created a statement that will determine whether or not the student has failed. So if the condition is true, then the if statement will be executed. However, if it's false, then the else statement will be executed. All right? Do you understand? Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So nanay split sa iyahang flow. Dili na ang flow pareha na tanan. Naanay difference, naanay split. Magbulag na ang iyang flow depending on the condition that you set. So if it's true, ari siya mo padayon sa if, but if it's false, ari siya mo padayon sa else. Anthony, go ahead. Oh, sige, go ahead. Braces. Ano siya pasabot ng braces? Kani?
Oh,
Oh, all right. So inside of brace would be the function that you would like to execute if this particular statement is true. So you can either create a C out, or we can also create another a conditional statement inside the braces. And that's what we call nested if statement. I will talk about it later on. Ano lang. So everything that you put inside the block, this one right here, will be executed if the condition is true. And then if else, everything that is inside the block would be executed if the condition is false. So yes, everything that is inside the braces matters. Everything in the braces matters rather. It's very important because it segregates the blocks from the if statement and the else statement. Okay? Answer ba ang question? Kinsa to? Si Anthony? Kung wala, then maglibog na ang program ug unsa ayang i-execute. Maglibog na
Mo
siya.
error man na.
Or ma-error na siya. It's because wala man siya kabalog unsa ayang i-execute if ang statement is true. Let's try. Oh, it might just work. Okay. I think may work na po siya. But, let's try. Let's try daw. Work rin na. Sige, let's try. Alright. This is a revelation for me. Work rin na siya.
Ugana
Okay,
lagi na sir.
But, this is a revelation for me as well. Mura siya Python di ay.
Kay kasagaran ra bang kuan og walay bracket yung katong break mo error.
Mm. All right. So I'm not sure if it's gonna be. It really is something with the C++ program. But ever since I started C++, I always include parentheses. This is a revelation for me. But so right now using dev C++, it works. But just to make sure to add braces every time. Okay. Maybe this would be helpful if we're using another condition upon, which is called else if. All right. But this is a revelation for me. Works without the braces. But just to make sure, guys, I'm not sure if it works with the dev with the sa to katong sa tong editor na to sa CXX Droid. So I'm not sure if it works with CXX Droid, but just to make sure, just add braces every time. Okay. This is actually how
Murag
Python works. Ang Python wala pa sila braces. Python nga programming language. So I guess they are similar. I'm not sure.
murag mo error daghan ni sir og multiple statement na.
Lagmit. If nanay, else if. All right. Okay, so do you have any questions so far with this, guys?
None so far, sir.
All right. So right now we're only dealing with two options, true or false rata. Murag duwa ra usa ra ka condition ba? But what if there are more than one condition to be checked? Okay. So what if I more than one condition? So that is where else if comes in. If else rather, else if. Okay. Let me erase this so you can see it all. Okay. So if statement is used, the if statement is only used if one condition is true. However, if there are more than one condition involved, we will use else if. So kumbaga kung gamana ka og program that will involve multiple conditions na, multiple options, then we will use else if. So how to write it? Same thing. You will write the first one will always be else always be if, and then the condition, and then function to be executed if it's true. And then if you have another option, we will use else if, and then write else if, and then write the condition upon another condition, and then function to be executed if the other condition is true, if this particular condition is true. And then the good thing about else if is there are no limits. You can add one or more, or yeah, you can add more else if depending on the conditions that you want. And then pinakalas gihapon, pinakalas na jud is if everything is false, then the else will be executed. All right. So let's say, for example, we're going to create a program that will display a greeting depending on the time of the day. So the time, if it's gonna be less than or before 11:59 in the morning, it will say good morning. And then if the time is before 6 p.m., so that means from 12 to 6 p.m., it will say good afternoon. And then from 6 p.m. and beyond, it will say good evening. All right, so we're going to create a program that will determine that will display a greeting depending on the time of the day. So nana tayo more than one condition that we'll be using. So again, the first condition is if it's before 12, 11:59 pa, it will say good morning. So that means if mo type ta og 6 o'clock, which is 600, it will display good morning. Now, if it's before 6 p.m., then it will say good afternoon. Then if the rest, let's say 6 p.m. and beyond, it will say good evening. All right, so take note of the conditions that we're going to set. So this is where analysis comes in. Dapat kabalo mo analyze of how do you create the conditions so that the program will be able to execute the proper output that you want. Okay, so again, we're going to create a program. So if you want to take a screenshot of this codes, take a screenshot now. And okay, so if you're done, I'm going to erase it all. So this program will will display meeting depending on the time of the day. So if before from let's say 00, that is 12 in the I think is or siguro na I'm not sure, to let's say 11:59 a.m. it will say good morning.
Good morning.
Kaya na. And then if it's gonna be from 12 to 12 o'clock, at 12 noon na lang. April na lang, abot na nato 12. 12 noon. PM naman ang 12 noon sa? Ng 12 noon, PM na. So from 12
Yes, sir.
to 6 PM na lang. 6 PM, it will say
Good afternoon.
afternoon. And then if it's gonna be, yeah, 12:01. Thank you. If it's gonna be 6:01 to and beyond, it will say good evening. Right? So we're going to create a program that will create us depending on the day. So naanay more than one, di ba? Naanay more than one conditions. So therefore, we'll be using if for the first condition, else if for the second condition, and third if all of the condition is false. All right. So now, since we are dealing with time, obviously we're not gonna type. Let's say for example, ang oras is 12. It's 12 noon, inanap pa nato pag type, we'll be using 24-hour time. 24-hour 24-hour format. Okay, so when say 24-hour format, let's say if alauna sa hapon, unsa nga oras ang alauna? If 24 hour,
13, sir.
so that's 13, di ba? If alas 5, that's 1700. Pero pag sa military time ba na. So that's what we'll be using. All right. So first is we're going to create a variable for our time. So let's say the time of the day. Let's call it. Okay, let's use int, and then time of the day. Let's just call it time. It's equals to. Let's say for example 1600. Okay. Unsa na 1600?
Let's go.
Okay, 4 p.m. Right. So that's gonna be our time. So first we will create our condition. So if time is okay, how do we set a condition for this? If time is unsa man?
Less than or equal to 12.
Less than or equals to unsa man? 1200. All right. Then it will say, let's say, see out.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Bale, sir.
Bali lagi. And then good morning.
Good
Alright.
morning, sir.
However, if it's gonna be 12:01 to 6 p.m., it will say good afternoon. So how should we write it? So again, else if
Else if
And then the condition is time
Time,
Greater than equal to
less
great
than the less than or equals to what is 6 p.m.
answer
1800.
18. 18.
1800.
10
So
p.m.
1800 is 6 p.m. So that means, for example, kung mo type ta og 11:59, it's still less than or equals to 1800, di ba? However, di rin na siya ma-fall. It's because namatay una na condition. So i-prioritize na yung unang condition that is closer to the number. And then, so basically, ang mugana ra sa LCF is starting from 12:01 up until 6 p.m. lang. Alright? So for the last one, since it's gonna be the last, so we can either just use else.
Else.
Okay? Since that's the last time, and wala na may laing
Else,
oras, di ba? Pwede po. Pwede na po tamo else. Or, kay pwede na tamo else, it's because wala na may laing oras, di ba? Muna man na siya pinakalas. So, bisag unsa nga number atong i-enter. Oh, okay, let's just say, okay, ano na lang, since there might be a chance nga mo enter ang tao of 5600, which is no longer time of the day. So, it's okay. We'll add another else na lang to make sure. For example, ni-enter ang kuan, ni-enter, so basically, 6:01 up until 20, unsa man,
24.
23:59, right? 23:59 meaning,
alas 11
as 11 sa gabi.
gabi.
So,
Kapit na
11:59. So we'll change this instead. So that's gonna be 0 na lang. So 12:59 p.m. It will say good evening. And then if, let's say for example, ni-enter ang user of kuan, butang nato og, hold on.
Sayop nga konto.
For example, enter siya og lain nga number ba? Let's say for example, ni-type siya og 3200. Dili naman na siya oras. Then that's the time that we'll get an error message. Then, and any other number, it will say error. Wrong. Error na lang. Para madali ta. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Again, from 12 in the midnight up until 12 in the kanang sa buntod to, may siyang good morning. So 12:01 to 6 p.m. it will say good afternoon. 6:01 to 11:59 p.m. it will say good evening, and any other number it will say error. All right. So therefore, for our second else if, what would be the condition?
Less
Less than or equal
less
to?
than or equal to 11:59.
Okay. What is 11:59?
Ay, kuan. 23:59.
3:59.
359, sir.
Okay, so let's check. The first one is kani. That is 12 noon. And then kani is 6 p.m. Before 6 p.m.
5:59.
Yun ba? I'm just writing a comment to remind us that this condition is set before 12 noon. And this is before 6 p.m. And then this one right here is before 11:59 p.m. Right? And if everything else is gone, we'll add a C out for the I. Good afternoon. And C out, let's say good evening. Right? Else,
Kulang
if meaning ni
semicolon,
enter
sir.
ang, okay, thank you. Meaning if ni enter ang number o lahi nga number, then we'll set an error message saying error. Ano lang. Okay, so let's check. Our time, the time that we set here is 1600. What should be the output, supposedly?
Good. Answer.
It should be
Okay.
Good afternoon.
good afternoon. But let's check. Let's check our program. All right, it says here, good afternoon. It's because the number that we entered is 4 p.m. And which condition is set? Kani, before 1800, which is 6 p.m., it says good afternoon. All right, let's try again. Let's close this up. What if we enter number, let's say, we'll try the other one. For us to be able to say it to good morning, let's set it to 800. 800 means 8 a.m.
Yes.
Right, it says here, good morning, because the first condition is met. So notice nga wala siya padayon sa sunod nga condition, it's because na-meet naman siya ang una condition. So therefore, the first condition is executed. All right? And then let's change it to, let's say, 8 2100, which is 9 p.m. 9 p.m. So it should say good evening,
Good
right?
evening, sir.
All right, let's check. Right, wala lang siya nigawas. Less than or equals to 23:59. Let's check. Let me try it again. Ay, akong see out wrong. I'm spelling. Right, let's try again. All right, it says here, good evening. It's because the time is less than or equals to 23:59. But what if we enter any other number aside from 0 to 23:59? So let's say, for example, ni butang taog 2500, which is no longer the time. Din na siya time, di ba? Di na siya pinod nga oras. Therefore, if we'll run it, it should say
Error.
error. All right, therefore, our program works perfectly well. Okay? So, do you have any questions with the if-else statement?
Wala ra, sir.
All right. So, sa'yo lang, di ba? Sa'yo lang. You just have to analyze first. I-analyze lang sa nimo og unsay condition nga imong is set, especially this type of conditions that uses time. Siguro kanimo pinaka-complicated if you're a beginner programmer. Ang time would be one of the complicated ones when it comes to setting conditions because you'll be using military hours or 24-hour format oras, and not everybody is really good with that. So, inanap ko sa ako na maglibog ko, that's why if I'm using an analog time or digital time, I'm using 24 hours everywhere. My phone, if now ako digital watch or something like that, because it just trains our mind to determine hours using 24-hour format. All right, do you have any questions? So let's try to analyze using flowchart. So for example, the time that we set is 1600. We have three conditions. We have here, if time is less than or 11 to or equals to 11:59. Well, obviously this is different from our example. It will say good morning. Else, if time is less than 1800, it will say good afternoon. Else, it will say good evening. But in our case, if we're going to create the flowchart, this should be, based on example ganina, this should be 1200. And this, then we have another condition here that says, or not condition, but flow that says, else if time is less than or equals to 23:59, yeah, it will say good evening, and then else says error. Ano? All right, notice nga, if we're going to check the flowchart, nana siya split sa iyang decision. Dili siya mo padayon kung less than 1200. Dili siya mo padayon if the time is less than 1800. Dili siya if it's 23:59, and then here if everything is false. All right, so let's have a practice activity. Let's write a program that will determine whether the number entered is odd or even. What do you mean by odd numbers? What do you mean by odd or even? All right. So odd numbers are not divisible by 2. Okay? Not divisible by 2. That's correct, Anthony? Meaning, og imo siyang i-divisible, i-divide mo siya by 2, na siya remainder ba? So that is, for example, we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. All right? Even number is divisible by, meaning, if imo siyang i-divide by 2, kana bang always nga ang iyang answer nasa answer ba nga walay remainder with zero remainder kumbaga. So that, for example, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. All right? So that's odd or even. Sakto ba? Sakto ba kung definition?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we will write a program that will determine whether the number entered is even or odd or even. So what processes are involved? First is we're going to use input and output. Okay. Okay, nasa itong example ganyan na wala tayong gamit input and output. But when you'll be doing a program on your own, make sure to use input and output function. And then obviously we'll be using arithmetic operation and then if else if statement. So what would be the arithmetic operation that we'll be using? What do you think? For us to determine whether a number is odd or even, based on your knowledge from the previous lesson, what would be the arithmetic operation that we'll be using?
Division.
Division, sir.
Okay. Now, I two ways on how to determine this. First is division. Again, because based atong example, based atong definition, the number must be divisible by 2, di ba? That's even. If it's not divisible, meaning if you divide na to na siya remainder, then the number is odd. All right? So that's one. That's one option is to use division. Second one, what would be the second option siguro? Based sa iyong
Addition.
knowledge last week nga lesson. Unsa siguro? Okay, let's test whether or not you really studied the lesson last week. What do you mean by modulo? Anyone? Mabal ani og gatuon ba dyan isla sa last week nga klase be? Sa pre-recorded? What do you mean by modulo?
Ah.
Go ahead. Nilamil. I
Last
think
year
Nilamil.
reminder.
Okay, go ahead, Nilamil.
Wala ra, sir.
Nitingog si Nilamil. All right. Okay, go ahead, Anthony. As a remainder. All right, so when you say modulo, that is the remainder after a number is being divided. Okay, so for example, what is, for example, if I'm going to write mm, 3, kana, di ba modulo is mamanay symbol? Is this true? All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
if I'm going to write this, what would be the answer? Right, 1. Okay, would everyone agree? Agree ba ang tanan? Agree
Yes,
ba?
sir.
All right. Let's say kani. Unsay answer ana? Anyone?
Five.
That is 0. All right. No. Again, the answer. Okay. Here's what this is all about. So, for example, in the first example, 3, and then modulo 2. So, ang unang buhaton is 3 divided by 2. That is 1 remainder 1. Ang iyang the answer is ang remainder. Oh no. Erase. All right. For example, 3. All right, let me erase everything. For example, 3 divided by 3 modulo 2. Ang unang buhaton niya is 3 divided by 2. No, no. Ayun, don't use this. Okay. 3 modulo 2. Ang iyang buhaton is 3 divided by 2, correct? So the answer is 1 and then remainder 1. So ang answer is 1. Ang remainder ang iyahang i-display. So for example, 10 modulo 2. Ang iyang buhaton is 10 divided by 2, which is 5, remainder 0. Diba? Kung i-divide mo ang 10 og 2, ang answer niya is 5 man dyan. 5 sirado. So therefore, the remainder is 0. So again, modulo returns the remainder. Okay? Ang iyahang i-return is ang remainder. So I think the best way to create a program, the arithmetic operator that we'll be using would be modulo to make it easier for us to create the program. Alright, do you, nag-gets round sila na modulo? Again, iyang i-divide ang number, pero ang iyang i-return is ang remainder lang. So therefore, naaray to remainder, 0 or 1. Naaray duwara siya kakuan ba? Duwara ang iyang, kung i-divide nato siya by 2. Alright? If we're going to check whether the number is odd or even. Nag-gets ba? Okay, before we proceed, nag-gets ba what do you mean by modulo, guys? If nag-gets lang, type 1 type 2 in the comment section. Ito nag-gets ra. If not, type 0. All right. Okay, I'm seeing 2. Okay, that's good. Let's proceed. Let's create a program that will determine whether the number is odd or even. So naka-screenshot na batanan. I'm going to kulang pa din eh.
Yes.
Return 0. Okay, if you want to take a screenshot, do it now. But I'm going to erase it. Okay na. All right. Well, mura na siya, pero if you'll be dealing with multiple functions na, right? Because we only have one function. But if we'll be dealing with multiple functions na, we have to, each function should end with return 0. So for example, if we create a laing function here, let's say public, but right now we're not going to be discussing it. It will be discussed maybe in the future. But right now, since we are only doing one function, which is int main, then basically, automatic na siyang wala na may kasunod. Pero if nanaylain, we have to make sure that this particular function is terminated first before we proceed to the next function.
Na may public domain.
Na mga public na mga functions. And maybe it will be discussed to you during your ITS 104 programming 2. I'm not sure if ako ang instructor, Ana, most of the time silang either Sir Yeye Badoy or Mark Julius Badoy or Miss Daisy Ann Lago or si Miss Marilyn Baldonado. They are the siguro sila may mga programming 2 instructors because I will be moved to graphics design and web development as well. So that's it. Again, return 0 is a terminator for the function terminator. Since we only have one function, which is this main function, therefore, return 0 is not necessary, but it's something that we need to practice at doing. Good, because again, if we'll be doing multiple function, we have to terminate each function first before proceeding to the next one. All right. So next, let's create a program that will. Okay, this program will determine if the number is odd or even. Okay, so let's make it proper. So we will use input output function. So let's say, first of all, we'll create the variable. So we will use int, and then let's call it, let's say num1 or num lang. And then we have our first variable, and we will use input and output function. So first we will create an output saying enter a number. By the way, this is how you will be doing your assignment, guys, okay? Make sure to always use input and output function on your assignment. So cin, that means we're going to save it somewhere. Asa na to siya i-save? Sa here, if the user enter a number, asa na to siya i-save?
Num, sir.
All right, just keep your cameras turned on, guys. Nagipang palong na pod katong have unlimited internet. Just keep it turned on so I can see you. Okay, thank you. Ay, palunga. Palungon lagi ninyo. Maulaw mo? Ano ka wala sa klase makita na next stick pohon o unang makaila ko di sa inyong mga naong para dili awkward or basig makita ta sa plaza sa na at least kaila ko ninyo o pa ko nakita-an sa kastudyante na ako so far. If naaman gani wala ko kaila kay dili ko kakita ninyo.
Basig magkita si Craft.
Citycraft. Uy, wala ko. Nakato ko dito, Citycraft. Dili mi ganahan kay dito manggod kay langas manggod. Alright, we'll talk about that later on. Pero dili kayo ko makita sa Citycraft kay dili kayo may ako ug akong mga friends dili kayo hilig og langas. Ato mi sa atbang sa Citycraft if magtambay man gani. Kami nga.
Ako balay simbahan na jud ko, sir.
Simba,
Eskwelahan.
bitaw. Pwede man po usahay. Ako nara ko diri oh. Nara mo na akong hobbies kana sa likod na ako. So, if pangitawan ko ninyo, I'm always here at home. Alright, so nanatay C out, nanatay C in. So every time that the user will enter a number, let's see what we'll do to it. We'll create and then we're going to create a condition that will set if the number is odd or even. So how do you think we should set the condition? Saan siguro nato para makaset a condition whether the number is odd or even? Saan siguro? Anyone? Anyone would like to try? So how do we determine, di ba? Atong gisgutan gaina is we will use modulo. So how do we write it here? Num is, this is siguro. Anyone? Okay, percent and then
2.
2. All right. First of all, yan lang. Before that, we'll do this para di tayo maglibog. Pwede tayo magamaan eh. Percent 2 equals to 0. But I don't think this is a really good a really good condition to set. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create, di ba? We already have a we already have our own variable. Let's create our arithmetic operation here first. Patong sa nato ang atong arithmetic operation. So therefore, we'll set, let's say, our number is, we'll create another variable. Let's call it result na lang. Int result. And that. And then, how do we add value to our result? Result is, ito na, butang na taog num percent 2. Right? Meaning, whatever it is that we enter for num1, iyang i-divide by 2, and then, ang iyang answer will be saved to result. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Do you follow? Okay. Ayan. So, first, we enter the first number, and then, we created a variable num, and then created another variable for result. Now, what is the value? We know that the value for num is whatever it is that the user will enter. What is the value for result? The value of the result is number, for example, the enter siya of 5. So 5 divided by 2, and then 5 divided by 2, and then the remainder, which is in this case, it should be 1, and that's going to be the value of our result. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sir.
Wala na. So now that we have value for our, na-compute na nato ang modulo, how do we set the condition here? How do you think we should set the condition? Guys,
If result
okay. Result is man.
not equal to 0,
All right. Ano na lang, we will use equals. Ano, if it's equals to, let's say, 1. So again, if you will be using equals, it should be do two equal signs, okay? So meaning, if ang value is absolutely 100 siya, 100 siya, then it will say, is it odd or even? If, kung naman siya i-result nga 1 ba?
odd.
Okay. Ha? Klaro na to.
Odd.
Diba?
Odd, sir.
If na siya remainder, meaning,
Odd number.
that's odd number. So,
Odd.
the number is odd. Alright. However, So we're
Semicolon,
going to
sir.
create. Thank you. However, if the result is
Not equal.
we can use
Equal
not
to
equal. Pwede tang mo gamit or we can also set it to zero.
Zero.
Kung zero, that is the number
Even.
is even.
one, sir.
Diba? Mo man itong description, di ba? Kung odd numbers, if we're going to divide it by 2, naa siya'y remainder nga 1. But if ang even numbers, if divide na to siya og 2, the result is 0. However, if somehow, maybe na ay glitch sa, na ay, sana um, na ay glitch sa mathematics, if somehow ni-result siya og any other number, then we can add an error message stating error. Let's see out. This will not happen, but just in case, there's an error. Right? And return 0. Before we proceed, nagets ba? Nagets ba on how do we set the condition? First is,
Semicolon, sir.
okay, thank you. Malimot yung ano semicolon. All right, first is we determine the number, and then the next is we're going to compute for the remainder. So how do we compute the remainder? We're going to create another variable, and the value of that variable is number divided by 2, or number modulo 2. What it does is, ang iyang buhaton is number divided by 2, let me write, divided by 2, and then, producing remainder value. Although i-divide na to siya 2, pero ang iyang i-output is ang remainder value lang yun. So since 2 man natong divisible, dividend, or whatever that's called, there are only 2 possible values, either 1 or 0. So that's why we set a condition. If the result is equals to 1, then it's going to be an even number. If it's going to be 0, odd rather, if it's the remainder is 0, then the number is even. But if somehow there's a glitch in, so term na a glitch sa, hold on. Matrix. Na a glitch sa matrix, and somehow it produces any other numbers aside from 1 and 0, then it will say error. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
I get ba? All right, let's test. Execute, compile, and run. Then enter a number. Let's say we will enter, kanang dako jud kaayo. Let's say 456. If you click enter, it will say the number is odd daw. Let's test. Is that true? Let's check. Okay, siguro. 456 divided by 2. 2 to 8. Dapat 0 ang answer.
To
Okay,
8.
not sure. Okay, the result is 1.
Diba kay add man ang number imong gipangita, sir? Ang result niya kay add.
Right. Niya kay dapat ang result ani is ang remainder ani dapat 0, di ba? 2 to 8 remainder 0. So dapat answer niya is even, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right, pero we're only looking for the modulo man. Ang remainder man dapat ang iyahang i-produce. Okay, let's check if
It-
by L.
I-try sa daw gamay number, sir.
Okay, I think this is something, okay, I think that let's try to move this down, kani. Let's try to move this because let's move it after we enter the number. Kana. Let's save that num result. Yeah, let's do it again. So yeah, let's try using small numbers now. Let's say 3. That is odd. Okay, that's true. So let's try it again. Let's do 6. It should be even. All right. Okay. All right. Mura ditong error. First, on the first part, we set the variables, but on the actual computation, make sure that we already entered the number. Okay. Na gets na ako ang error. It's because in this case, if dili nato ibutang, wala pa ta ka-enter sa number. All right. That's why the algorithm here is very important. Katong step-by-step procedure. So we need to get the number first. Okay. We need to enter the number first before we add the computation. Right. Nag-gets na?
Gag-glitch dito sa matrix, sir.
Na-glitch of matrix pero di ka to siya nga glitch gikan to ni sir nga glitch na safe to sir. Alright. So ganina ang nahitabo is nagaman na tadaan sa computation here nga wala pa ta ka-enter sa number. So we need to enter na number first kana before we proceed with setting up a value for our integer result. Alright. So let's try again. Let's save that, compile and run. And this time let's try using huge numbers. Let's say
456 ko na, sir.
sige, balik tas 456. 456. Uy, nga na, di ma-erase. 456. All right. It now says even. All right. So it's really important that since we need to make use of the input function first before we proceed with the computation. All right. Do you have any questions so far? Let's have another activity. Program number 2. Write a program that will perform arithmetic operation depending on which operation to use. All right. So basically, we're going to create a program, a calculator, a simple calculator that will perform arithmetic operation depending on the operation to use. So if we're going to basically we're going to use two numbers and then we'll use plus to add, minus to subtract, forward slash to divide, asterisk to multiply, modulo to get the remainder, and then unsa pa to lain. Okay, this will determine if what is plus plus?
Increment.
Increment, meaning we will add pila ka ba?
1.
1, and then the other one is
Decrement.
minus minus. That means
Decrement, sir.
Decrement.
minus 1, kumbaga. All right, that is add.
Nakagama nung kuha ni sir. Wala lang ko kakuha na ng modulo. Increment, decrement.
Pero okay, because yung assignment is simple naman. So this time we're going to create an actual calculator using all of the arithmetic operation. So divide and multiply and then modulo, increment, decrement. All right. So siguro now that you already have understanding what that plus means, so therefore C++ meaning an increment from the older version of programming language, which is C. Meaning C++ is an increment, one step higher of C. That's why it's called C++. All right. So what processes are involved? We'll be using, of course, input and output, and then if-else statement, of course, and arithmetic operation. So same thing. Let's declare variables. We will use basically we'll use two numbers lang, calculator of two numbers lang sa. For the first two numbers, we will call it num1 and num2, and then we will use select to choose whether plus, minus, divide, multiply, etc. And then sum, product, difference for the value for paraane, etc. And then float for our quotient. It's because there might be chance that quotient will produce decimal points. Abilia, do you have any question? Any question? Anthony, any question? Unsa man? So we will set a condition ba. This time we will use condition, and this would be our condition, whether to use add, minus, divide, multiply, modulo, increment, or decrement. Because nanay split sa flow ba. So if we will use add, then it will add both the numbers. If you will use minus, then it will subtract the first number from the second number. Yan na ba? So our condition here comes in with this operation, with the arithmetic operation. Anyway, let sa video. Unsa man yung video sa previous nga class? Yes, pero this time we'll be using conditional statement. Anyway, let's just do it here. So this program will, I'm not going to add that now. So we'll create our first integer variable. Let's call it int num1 and num2. So basically, first number one and num2, num1 and num2 would be the two numbers that we are going to compute, to calculate, and then we'll have another. Go ahead, Gideon.
So dili ra mo pili ang user o unsa nga operator yang gamiton or
That's what
ipakita na
we're,
tanag result.
no, that's what we're going to do. We are going to let the user choose whether plus, minus, divide. Dire na mo sulod ang condition. So kung sa pilihan sa user, plus, minus, nana ba? Papilion nato siya. So nanay split
Okay.
sa flow. So dire na tamo add sa condition sa ato ang arithmetic operation. So for example, for the meantime, let's declare the variables. We have int select. So we are going to create a variable for us to be able to select kung sa mayang pilion, like plus, minus, divide. So let's call it select. And then we have another integer for the values, sum, sum, and then difference, product, etc. Okay. So for example, we have int, we have sum, product, difference, command.
Co-
A quotient, since most of the time when we divide two numbers, there might be chance nga na ay decimal point, so we will use float for that, okay? We will use float.
Mm.
So we
Okay, sir.
have increment, so int, and then decrement, okay? And then float for our quotient. Ano ba spell yung quotient or C-U-O-T? Correct ka na sa?
QU. Sakto na sir QU.
Okay. Okay. So we will use input. So we will use an output first. That says enter the first number. And cin, that's gonna be in num1. And after that, we will enter another number. Enter the second number. And then save it to, asa na to i-save?
Num2.
Num2.
All right, now that we have values for num1 and num2, we're going to create computation. But, okay, all right, so we'll create a condition now, whether the user will use plus, minus, divide, subtract, etc. Okay, so we'll start a condition here, and we will use select. All right. By the way, before that, we will first enter equal, we will let the user know that they are going to enter which operation to use. So select, for example, we'll say enter 1 for addition. So for addition, we'll enter select 1. And then line break. No. Ito yung line break. Kung ano to sa? Backslash n ba to?
N. Yes sir.
Okay,
Pwede
backslash n.
ka dun, sir.
All right. And then enter 2. I guess yung idea. So basically, mo enter siya number para mo select sa kuan ba, addition or subtraction ba. All right. So enter 2 for subtraction. Ito yung
Line break.
enter 3 for multiplication. Enter 4 for division. backslash n, enter, kumilain, sub, addition, subtraction, multiplication, enter 5 for modulo. Pwede po. Pwede po. Pero ako is I'm trying to save up line of code. Pero it's okay. Again, nag-gets naman yun sa di ba? You can use end line or you can use backslash n. For the meantime, allow me to use backslash n. But again, you can use end line if you'd like to. And then enter, what's pa man? Enter 6 for increment. And then backslash and enter 7 for decrement. Kana naman, di ba? Decrement.
Yes, sir.
Right? Right. So again, you can use end line object, but right now I'm just using backslash n. All right. Now, if the user enter a number here, 1 to 7, then it will say, I will save it to select. So therefore, our select has a value now, depending on sa enter sa user, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So now, nanay value ang ato ang select. Therefore, we can now create our condition. So if ni-enter siya 1, we will perform addition, correct? Ni-enter siya 1, we will
Yes,
perform
sir.
addition. So therefore, if, ito siguro condition na to.
Num1 plus num2.
Dili pa. Muset sa ta condition of unsay gi-select sa student as a user. Therefore, we will use select is equals
If
to
select
1.
1, then
Nga. If ang 1 ang gi-select sa student as a user, therefore, we'll perform addition. So what should be the operation that unsa siguro equation atong buhaton?
num1 plus num2.
Right. And what should be the value? Unsa siguro nga unsa atong equation buhaton? Try to take a look at our variables here. We'll use sum is equals to num1 plus num2, correct? Diba? All right. And then we will add here a cout that says the sum is, and then concatenate it with sum. Then add a period. Nag-guess rin concatenation, di ba? So the sum is,
Yes, sir.
and then the value of sum. So for example, ni-enter siya og 5 and 6. So iya siyang i-add, and then it will say the sum is 11. And then concatenate it with a period. So I'm hoping everybody's already fully understood when it comes to concatenation. All right, next. What if ni-enter ang user of 2? Therefore, we'll be using subtraction.
Else.
So we'll use else if select. Again, 2 equal sign means absolute value. Absolute equals ba? Pareha sila og value. Both of them. And then we're going to use, ito siguro,
Difference.
if, because we're talking about difference, subtraction. And num1 minus num2. Same thing, we'll display the difference is, and then value of diff. Concatenate it para natin period. And then else if ni-enter siya og 3. Kung sa'yo 3 gani, multiplication. Therefore,
Product.
enter siya
Product.
3, and it will say prod, di ba? Since we use prod,
Yes, sir.
is equals to num1.
Plus
Unsa man gina to pag multiply og number? Unsay asterisk.
Asterisk.
So it's not x, but it's asterisk. Okay, good thing. It's good to know that you studied in our previous class. Kasi wala ko discuss ato.
See
Next.
out, sir.
All right, thank you. See out para i-display nato ang output. So see out the product is, and then the value of our products, which is prod, and then concatenate with a period para na period ang atong result. Another else if niyan select siya 4, say 4 yun na to, division. So this time, since we'll be using division, unsa Saan siguro
Katong
na
flow.
load? Agoy na tayo sa na po na-click na pod. Kadali lang ha. Tayo sa na po na-click na sa application nga equation. Okay. So we'll use code and then num1. Unsa na to pag-divide og num1 og num2?
Slash.
Slash.
Alright. So anything else you would like to add with this particular one? We discussed na ko but anything that you would like to add? Unsa na to pag-divide and make sure na mo. Okay. We will add float. Right? Why do we need to declare this? Anyone?
Like decimal.
Okay. So without this, ang iyang answer, for example, 5 divided by 3, the answer should be 1 remainder 1, di ba? 1.5, kumbaga. The 0.5
Yes.
will not be displayed. It's because, again, I'm not really sure. I cannot explain why, but we have to add float to any of these koan. Tag-asa, pwede na ito ibutang diya, pwede na itong i-adere, pwede na itong i-adere. Basta makadeclare ng tag-usa, therefore, the compiler will expect a koan, a value with decimal point. So pwede na itong butang bisag asa, pwede sa first, pwedeng dere, or pwede dere. In this case, we'll just add it on the first number. All right, extend lang dali lang guys ha. I think just 10 more minutes because it's already 11 at 10:59. Is that okay? Iwasan
Yes,
lang
sir.
nato ni and then we will end.
Okay ra, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, thank you. So next is else if we're going to select 5, it's for modulo.
See out, sir.
See out pa, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the quotient is, and then the value of our code. Right? Wrong spelling dahil ato ang code here. Ba? Code. All right. Okay. And then if we select 5, that is modulo. So that is napre tayo mod ay diri. Let's call it mod. So mod is equals to num1 and then num2. And then see out the modulo is, and then mod. You follow guys? Or am I talking too fast?
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
follow. Okay.
Tara, sir.
And if
Okay,
we
that's
select
fine.
6, it's gonna be, ang tawag ito? 6 is for increment.
Increment.
So we have increment is equals to increment of the first number. Okay? Ang butang nato since usara man kabok ang atong i-increment, so increment nato ang first number and then for the decrement the second number, ang num2. Okay? So for num1 we will increment num1, so num1 plus plus. And then
See out.
let's say see out the increment value of the first number is, let's call it increment, and then else if na pod para if ni-select siya 7, then it will say i-decrement na po nato ang num2. So decrement is equals to num2 minus minus.
Minus.
All right, and then see out the, hold on, nanawag akong dito. Dahil sa nanawag kong tito. Na si ko na tatawag ako mamaya. Nasa work pa ako. Salamat po. Okay. All right. So the decrement value decremented. Sige na, kana rin. Value of the
Decrement.
second number. Pero dapat naman ay past tense, diba? Pero sige lang. Kita-kita na bita. Right. Now, what if ni-enter ang user of number lain, let's say 8, 9, 10, which is no longer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We will use an error message using else statement. And let's say error, wrong operator. Kamu na bahala sa error message ninyo. Basta kay wrong operation. Error operation na lang para medyo high-tech siya. Error operation. And then return 0. Can you spot any possible errors? Can you spot any possible errors, guys? I think not. Let's check. Only one way to check whether everything's working. I'll run. All right, let's enter the first number. Let's say, randomly do na siya kayo. Enter the second number. Right, so we will enter 1 for addition, enter 2 for subtraction, enter 3 for multiplication, and so on. Let's start with addition first. Let's type 1, that is addition. Therefore, it will say the sum is 801. All right, so basically, naanay split sa flow. So since we selected addition, then it proceeded to the addition nga, which is kani. I-add niya ang first number of second number. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's compile and run, and this time we'll select katong subtraction. So another random number, then we'll select 2 for subtraction. The difference is 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 2. I think that's correct. Sakto ba? So since we selected 2, it subtracts the first number from the second number. Or, nana. And then let's try again. This time, let's try to do the product. So let's enter number. Let's enter 3 for multiplication. And it says here the product is kani. So I don't think sakto ba niya? Let's try to check calculator. Let's check. So we created a calculator app, pero to check whether our calculator is working, we need to use another calculator. 2, 3, 4 multiply by 4, 5, 6. 106, 704. All right, that's correct. Do you still follow, guys? All right. We're just testing. Test lang nato tanan to make sure that everything's working. This time, let's do the quotient. So let's go on. Let's input an obvious number. Para kanang muna siya decimal point ba. So if we divide nato siya og 2, obviously na dapat siya na siya decimal point. We will use division. So let's enter 4. Okay, quotient is 21.5. Now, what will happen if I float? So 43 and 2. Let's try to change that real quick. Let's remove the float. Let's save that. Again, answer again is 21.5 or something. Let's try to check if tangtangon na to ang float no word. Let's see what will happen. 43 and 2, then 4. Now, 21 na lang ang i-enter. Mawala ang 0.5. Okay? So, therefore, always make sure to add float. Bisag asa, pwede sa num2 or sa first part. Basta kayo makadeclare dito kasa, at least. Okay? So, let's proceed to the modulo. So, execute, compile and run. Let's enter an obvious rang answer. Let's say 5. Oh, no. Sige ka na lang. And then 3. All right. And then modulo is 5. So, we'll enter 5. The modulo is 0. Let's try again. Compile and run. Let's say 5 and 2, and then 4. Ano? Sa'yo. Modulo is 5, so we'll enter 5. Okay, modulo is 1 because 5 divided by 2 is 2, remainder 1, di ba? Correct?
Yes, sir.
That's why it produces modulo is 1. So let's check the increment. let's say, for example, the first number is 2, 3, 4. So we'll increment the first number. So let's type in 6. Then the increment value of the first number is 2, 3, 4 lagi. Wala lagi siya. Wala lagi siya ni add. Okay, so I think sa iba akong gibuhat, I think diri na to ibutang sa first. Let's check. That's plus num1. Right. So ibutan din nato sa tubangan day guys. Ang plus plus ibutan nato sa tubangan instead of sa likod. So here our first number is 1, but the increment value is 2. So plus plus butan sa nato increment value in the first part. So let's check the decrement. 5 and let's say 6. And let's test the decrement. So let's type 7. The decrement value of the second number, which is 6, is 5. All right. Okay, so do you have any questions?
None, sir.
Okay.
sir.
Don't you worry. I'm going to send this. I'm going to send this one. Sige, sige. Screenshot na lang.
Pwede mo screenshot, sir.
Sure. Medyo gamay siya, so make sure naka full screen. Iana inyong cellphone, no? Auto rotate. Then i-full screen. Or let's see. Pwede ta makasend og picture dire sa in call, dili sa GC na lang nako i-send. Hold on. Isa na ako sa GC. Okay, listen na lang ako later guys. Medyo gabagood na akong laptop. Adara. Okay, nasaan na? Right. So for your assignment, okay. Anday, napaanong tani oh. Pero sige na lang. For program number 3, write a program that will compute the electric bill according to the following condition. So if 50 kilowatt hour or less, it's gonna be 10 peso per kilowatt hour. If 51 to 100 kilowatt hour, it's gonna be 12 pesos per kilowatt hour. So if the kuan ang if ang resident uses 50 kilowatt hours or less, ang iyang rate is 10 peso only per kilowatt hour. If 51 to 100 ang iyang nagamit, then it will be 12 peso per kilowatt hour. But if 101 kilowatt hour or more, it's going to be 15 peso per kilowatt hour. So what are the processes involved? Input and output, if-else statement, arithmetic operation. So we will use float as our variables. And these are the codes. So di lang na ako i-discuss and then nato i-try, but just try to take a look. So basically, the first condition is, if ang usage is below or equals to 50, then the rate is times 10. Okay, 10 peso per kilowatt hour man. If it's more than or less than 100, meaning 51 to 100, the rate is 12. Kana? And then if it's going to be more than 100, then the rate is going to be 15. All right? So for example, in this example output, ang usage niya is 52.4. Therefore, the rate is 12 kilowatt hour, 12 peso per kilowatt hour, and the bill is 628.8. So nindot unta ni ato na i-try, but we ran out of time already. So based on your knowledge with arithmetic and arithmetic operation and try to do it yourself. Okay? And here's your assignment.
Yes, sir.
Here's your assignment. Write a program that will compute an employee's withholding tax according to the following condition. So it's the similar with this. Similar sa problem number 3. So if ang salary sa user is less than or equals to 15,000 pesos, the tax would be 12%. Okay? If ang salary is 15,000 peso to 15,001 peso to 25,000 pesos, the tax is 15.5%. And if it's 25,001 and above, the tax is 20%. So your job here is to compute employees' withholding tax according to this. So what you're going to do, you're going to use input and output function. It would be up to you to determine ug unsay salary sa user. So basically, you enter salary for all the conditions. So sa inyong screenshot unya, mag-enter mo og salary is below 15,000. The another screenshot is for the salary for 15 to 25, and another screenshot for 25 and above. So since there are 3 conditions, you're going to set 3 and put 3 outputs, okay? 3 screenshots, guys.
Yes, sir.
Do you follow? And then how to compute? This is an example. So for example, ang salary is 14,500, therefore the tax group is 12%. Okay? Therefore, you're going to compute tax is equals to 14,500 multiplied by 12%, which is 0.12. That is the withholding tax. So, ang inyong output is 1,740. Pero, dapat i-output nimo og unsa pud siya nga tax group. Okay? So, just follow this particular example here. Ang inyong output is this. For example, salary is 14,500. Kamo ang mo enter ani. And the moment that you enter the salary, it should display which tax group siya na belong. So again, since the first one is 12% if it's less than 15%, 15,000. So since it's 14,500, so it's less than 15,000. So it nabilong siya sa 12% tax group. And after that, this is the computation. Tax is equals to 14,500 times 0.12. That is 12%. And then the withholding tax is 1,740. All right? And then magama mo para 12% and then 15.5% and then 20%. So make sure nga yes, sa output, make sure naka-output mo para 12%, na po mo output para 15% and then 20%. So balik tulo ka output ba inyong i-produce? Or maybe 4 kung ganahan mo na error message. I don't think there will be any error message, so it's okay. You can optional na lang ang error message, which is the else. But make sure you'll be able to output 1 for the 12% tax group, 1 for the 15.5 tax group, and then 20 for tax group. Again, your output is this. I-output ninyo, kani input ni siya, and every time that you input a number, it will display which tax group. Dapat i-display po niya unsa nga tax group. So output this. And then output the withholding tax. So duha ka output each time na ay tax group and output. So pareha ni ba? Try to make your output as clear as possible. For example, this one. This is an example output from problem number 3. So pag enter nimo og 52.4, belong iyang gibutangan ang iyang gi-output niya unsa siya nga rate. Na belong siya sa 12 peso per kilowatt hour rate and then the actual bill. So hopefully inana pa din yung output. Okay, let me write it down here. So it should be output ninyo should be something like this. Salary and then enter the salary here and then tax group and then enter which dili enter but make sure na output siya either kani ba, kani or kani. So either 12% or 15.5% or 20%. And then lastly, withholding tax. Here. Okay, unsa ang gyud pag-compute sa withholding tax? I-multiply ra nimo. 14,500 times the tax group. And then that is the withholding tax. Do you have any question with the assignment?
None so far, sir.
Anyway, if you have any question, just send it through our GC. If it's something na kanang makabenefit ang imong mga classmate, try to send it sa GC lang. And then, if it's gonna be personal, you can send me a personal message. Pero if ang question nimo, possible po nga ni question po ng classmate, adto ra sa GC, send, okay? Na may question. Okay, usay, dili ko kabasa because this is the second account mga guys. Ikaduha nga account, di siya main account na ako ba. So usay, di ko kabasa og mga personal message. So mas maayo nga ibutang sa GC. Kaya dito, ma-alert man ko. Every now and then, mag-check man ko. Okay? The deadline is November 16th. That's Wednesday next week at 11:59. That's our full day. If you don't have any questions, kindly turn on your cameras one last time so we can have our picture taken. And thanks so much, guys, for attending this class and staying this long. This would be 2-hour discussion, so this would be 2-week attendance. So meaning dua yung attendance ng adlaw ba if you stayed from the start up until the end. All right. Okay. Do we have Kurt and RG, Eloisa, Bartolome? Can you turn on? And Chansai, can you turn on your cameras, guys? Kadali lang. RG and Kurt. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. And Zerna, Bartolome. Kadali lang. All right. It's okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next week. Hopefully, we'll be able to see each other by Monday or Tuesday, depending lang. Okay. Well, and I'll let you know if madayo na face to face. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.
Welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Wednesday next week, November 16th. You're welcome. Bye bye, guys.
Bye, sir. Have a good day.